All right, everyone, welcome to the panel Positively Promoting Furry. I am Kijani. And
I'm Aphinity.
We are, well, I'll give you a little background about myself real quick. I've been in the fandom since 2008, and I've been doing a lot of public fursuiting events locally here in Seattle. And positively promoting the fandom is something I really care deeply about. And I actually have a background in the press. This is kind of going to be touch a little bit on furry in the media as well, because the furry in the press panel yesterday got canceled, unfortunately, so we will touch on that topic as well. But I was a newspaper reporter for 5 years for a couple local papers in this area, so I know the industry quite well, and I'll offer some insight on that.
Yeah, I've been running cons for quite a number of years. For those who don't know me, I run Halloween up in Vancouver. I've been doing that for 5 years. I'm on the board of directors of this convention, as well as Vancouver. I was the vice/co-chairman last year for Vancouver, so I had to deal with the media a lot this last year, as well as a number of other things. So, yeah.
Okay, so as kind of an introduction to the discussion today, I'm going to talk about why is this so important? Why is it important to promote furry positively in the public eye? Well, one of the reasons I have is that the furry fandom really has grown exponentially in the last 10 to 15 years. Like, Anthrocon is a great example. I don't know if any of you guys went to the con earlier this summer, but it had over 5,200 attendees. It was covered by Reuters, which is an huge international news organization. And there's many conventions all over the United States and all over the world, seemingly every weekend. And so people obviously the public is learning more about this because they'll see it as you go downtown to these hotels. And as more and more people are being exposed to the fandom, it makes it vitally important that we present it in a positive light to kind of negate all the bad press and the bad media that this fandom has gotten in the past, and I'm sure you guys can all think of examples of that. Uncle Kage, the chairman of Anthrocon, has a great quote. He usually says, "It takes years to build a reputation, but it takes 10 seconds to destroy it." And that's very true, or one Tyra Banks episode. Yeah. So,
who's seen a Tyra Banks episode?
Nobody.
Okay.
Tyra Banks is pretty insignificant.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
CSA?
CSI, yeah. We'll talk.
Who has not seen the CSI episode? Okay, guys, go watch it. Fur and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Important to know your media.
It's actually pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
It is.
It is. It's completely ridiculous. And
Stupid.
it's stupid.
Only episode of CSI I ever watched. Only one I'm ever going to.
Do you mind if I digress into that?
Go for it.
That CSI episode, I touched on this actually in my last panel an hour ago, but does anyone know that there was actually furries involved in that episode? Like, that was actually going to be much, much worse than it was. They initially set up, for those of you, I apologize for repeating for those who were at the last panel, but the initial setup of that set, they had already built the set, it was done. They had decided that Furry was basically a BDSM group that got into mascot characters and tied each other up and had their way with each other. And they had built the set for this. They had built basically a BDSM dungeon, and that was what they thought furry events were. When they built this set, and someone just said, "Hey, we should see if there's any locals here that we can bring in to see how this is." And so they brought in a couple people in the fandom locally. In fact, one of whom is on the board of directors as well, Aloha. He's actually in the episode. If you look, he's actually shown twice, and it's very obviously him. Look for the big flowered shirt and a camera. Anyways, he was one of the people that walked in, and everyone just went, no, this isn't what we do. And that's why it actually turned out to be sort of close to what we do, but still off by a fair amount because they had to keep the original story. So anyway, I digress.
Okay, so we'll cover, first of all, how to positively promote furry in a convention environment, because we're all here at a convention. One of the most common questions you're going to get as you're, say you're in the lobby is, what is all this? That's kind of what you have to answer. Unfortunately, a lot of people, when they're presented with that, they'll immediately get on the defensive and say something like, "Oh, we're not perverts, we're not sex freaks," stuff like that. The biggest thing you need to remember is don't describe the furry fandom by what it is not. And I'll give you a couple examples why. We're a very visual species. When you say something like, to say, I'm going to describe something as not a tomato, what's the image that's in your mind? You're thinking of a tomato, even though I said not. Say you go to this convention of motorcycle enthusiasts, and you go up to one of the guys and say, "What is this all about?" You're curious. He'll say, "Well, we're we're not a motorcycle gang because that has negative connotations, but and we don't like to bash each other's skulls in, and we don't have any dealings with drugs or murdering people. That's all, and that's all. That's all phony, except for my friend Tom. He spent some years for cocaine, but okay. So what's the image in your head of this group?
A cocaine addict who likes to murder people.
Exactly, drugs and violence and stuff. Although he said we're not doing this. Is not part of us. But you know what? That's the image that you have in your mind. So how do you present when someone asks you what is this? What's going on here? Well, what I recommend, there's different different ways of thinking about this, but I like to use words that the average person will understand. Like, if you go up to someone on the street and say the word anthropomorphic, 99% of the people are going to be like, what did you call me? They're not going to understand. They're not going to know what that means. So I like to use simpler words that have a similar meaning but a positive connotation, like cartoon animals. That's a great one. When you break it down,
That's all mascot.
mascots great too. Excellent. Yeah, mascots, cartoon animals, because people understand that. They know what a mascot is. You've been to a sports game and you've seen the big costume characters that walk around and get people excited. So people know what that. Everyone understands the concept of cartoons.
At least in North America, it changes slightly. If there's any Europeans here, a couple of you guys, you'll probably attest to the fact that mascots is slightly less known in your regions of the world. At least that's what I've been sort of made to believe. So yeah. So
Okay, there's a concept is known.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. Another great way to describe it is, people see these mascot characters walking around. You can explain that basically we all create a character, and some people choose to bring it to life in costume form. That's another great way to describe it. Try to avoid using buzzwords like fursuit and furry, because again, people aren't going to understand what that means. You say furry, people think you're involved with PETA or something like that. I know that's obviously not what you want. And the best way to positively promote furry at a con is to lead by example. We're all about having fun, enjoying each other, and if you can just do that and
A lot of sorry, I didn't know where I was going with that. Sorry, continue.
Okay. Well, next thing I was going to say is some people's bad decisions, unfortunately, lead to the public's poor perception of furry. I'm going to give an example. This may or may not have happened at a previous rainforest up the road, but a flight attendant, we share the hotel with flight attendants that come in because we're so close to the airport here. Well, a female flight attendant may or may not have come into the lobby one evening during the convention and wondered, who are these people, walking around in animal costumes? Well, someone from the convention came up and explained it to her, saying, we do raise a lot of money for charity, and this is just a group that likes to, we like cartoon animals, and it's art, form of expression, etc. And then a gentleman in a dog latex costume and bondage gear was being led around by his boyfriend on a leash through the lobby. What do you think she's going to remember all that wonderful stuff about the furry fandom that we raised $1,000 for charity, or is she going to remember that image that she saw? So I know you have a story about the last year.
Unfortunately, last year there was a bit of an incident, which is why if you looked at our programming, there's a couple panels that we added to the repertoire, including fursuit etiquette and things like this. Last year we have obviously this is a large convention, okay, and it gets a lot of attention both from media and from outsiders. Rainforest has always been on the standpoint that media is not necessarily the best thing to allow in unless we've approved them. So for that reason, we haven't allowed a whole lot of news crews here. So a lot of people don't really know what this convention's about in the local area. So anyway, in that case, in this particular situation, there was a group of people that were in the hotel. They were looking around, seeing what was going on. And a fursuiter came up to them. They said, wow, hey, I really like your costume. And of course, a lot of suitors will pick up on that as like, oh, they like me. I'm going to go and interact with them. So that's what this person did. But they pushed a little too far. They went in for a hug, and she says, oh, no, I don't want to hug. And so he kept trying to hug her. She's like, no, I really don't. So then he started to poke her and just went like this. And she has nothing to do with the fandom, so she's going like, what in the heck is going on here? Yeah, that was the wife of Hilton Security Chicago. So yeah, we had a little bit of a problem explaining that to the staff here, and in fact, we're very fortunate that we have the chairman we have, who has the reputation he has with other events, to have it so that we're actually allowed to fursuit in the lobby at all this year. So if you see the hotel being a little bit anal about what we're doing, if you use the term, in the lobby, that's why. So obviously, you want to make sure that you keep your limits and know where you're going with things and presenting the right image to people, because poking someone who doesn't want to be poked is not the right image to present to people, no matter how cute you think you are.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, don't treat visitors. If it's pretty apparent whether someone is with the convention or not. You obviously have the lanyard or whatever, but don't treat visitors like members of the convention. Fursuiters can try to interact with those people. That's great. People like to see that. But if they don't want it, don't press the issue, because it can just only lead to bad things.
yeah.
All right, so let's talk about first positively promoting furry in a public environment now. I know you've done a lot of that with your organization, Helping Paws, and I do the same up here with our group. Now, most positively promoting furry in a public environment will be through fursuiting. I mean, it's just a fact of the matter. Although I know only about 20% of the fandom has a fursuit, it's the most visible thing to the public when we're out there.
More like 30 or 40%.
It's probably 30 or 40. Yeah, it's a little higher than 20 now, I think. But it's great because it's not only rewarding for the performer, but it allows for great positive exposure for furry, because again, we're very visually oriented. When people go around and say, even if it's something simple like at a park or maybe at an organized charity event, when people see fursuiters interacting with kids and bringing smiles to people's faces, that's what they're going to take away, and that's a wonderful thing.
Who's done that, by the way? Who's gone in the public and done that type of thing?
Great.
Well, a couple of you. That's great. If you haven't considered doing it, honestly, consider it. It's we probably missed all the panels, unfortunately, on that subject. Did any of you catch any of the panels about fursuiting outside the fandom? You got it? Okay, cool. You got it. There's some really great inspirational things you can do, and it's a great way to get people to understand why we really do this. And I can go into another story, but I won't. We'll digress.
Oh, you can if you want. I'm about to tell a story right now.
Okay. Oh, no, go ahead. You tell yours.
Okay, so this is a good example of how fursuiting in public can be more than what it appears on the surface. I host I don't know if any of you guys are local here, but I host a very large fursuit bowling meet for the local Seattle Furs, but people come from Canada, Oregon, all over for this. The last one had 177 attendees in it, so it's pretty big. And we have the host center for that is about 30 miles north of here, Kenmore Lanes. And they've been our hosts ever since we've had 10 meets, and they've been hosts since number 4. So they absolutely love us. They love the business. They love how we can. Here's an example. We have parties. Our party is on Saturday afternoon, and Saturday afternoon at a bowling alley is usually filled with birthday parties for kids. And the manager at Kenmore Lanes actually, just for fun, tells those birthday parties that that he brought in all the fursuiters to entertain them for their party. It's great because we get a big kick out of that, and everyone has a good time. Well, after the last One Furball Strike, number 9, I got a private message from another manager at Kenmore Lane saying, we're going to have a special birthday party coming up in about 2 weeks. There's a pair of foster kids that are going to be celebrating their birthday here. They've had a very rough life. They've been bouncing around between foster homes. And they've never celebrated their birthday before. It's going to be their first actual birthday party. They're going to turn 9 years old. Do you think you can bring some of your...
I wish I had a bigger picture.
Oh, yeah,
that's the picture. If you can see it, I know it's hard to see from back there, guys, but if you pass it back, you can see it.
Yeah, we usually pull about 40 to 50 fursuiters at the meet. But anyway, so she was asking me, can you bring some fursuiters down to this birthday party and really give those kids a day to remember? And this has nothing to do with my bowling meet. It's just the fact that she was there for my meet and she saw all the wonderful costumes and how we were all having a good time, and she wanted to bring that to other people. And I was like, certainly, this is going to be great. So we went down that day, and I chose about 4 or 5 local suitors that were willing to do this. And the thing that really brought a smile to my face is as we were going out there, because the kids didn't know we were coming. It was a total surprise to them. And as we were walking down to the lanes to go bowl with them and interact with them, she got on the intercom and says, Jacob and Joseph, we want to wish you all a happy birthday, and we brought some furries here to make your day extra special. And there's probably about 50 or 60 other people in the bowling alley at that time. So everyone that didn't know what furries were or fursuits or mascots, they all got a positive exposure to furry through that, and I think that was really wonderful.
Yeah, that's a great one. It's always important as well to have a distinction between what's furry and what isn't. And now that's probably another digression that I don't want to go too far. But always remember that doing things in public and so on is awesome. It's great, and it gives a great impression. But also understand that sometimes doing such things it could have a negative connotation to it as well. So make sure you know whether or not it is good to actually use the moniker furry in the first place, because as much as we would love to say the furry fandom is spotless and amazing, it unfortunately isn't, and it causes some problems for some groups. So a lot of us have actually chosen to distinguish ourselves as not specifically furry, but not necessarily deny it if people ask. In the case of the group I'm part of, Helping Paws, we are not a furry group. We just all happen to be furries. We actually tell people specifically that no, we're a costume performance group. We have been accused of it before, and I do mean accused of, not asked about. And in those situations, we just go, huh? What are you talking about? We don't know what you're talking about. And we don't know what that is. And in situations like this is slightly contrary to the image we're trying to set, obviously, with the furry fandom, but because we represent other groups and nonprofits that could be actually harmed by any negative repercussions, we choose in this situation to be a separate entity. So that's one of those situations where we're not really a furry group in that situation. However, there are many groups that do the same thing and are furry and openly furry about it. And like I know Ty, for example, you're part of that. And Kheetah, I think you also do a little bit with that, which is great. And we highly encourage that type of atmosphere, but it's also about knowing your audience and who you're doing this
Absolutely, yeah. In a case like Helping Paws, where they're a registered 501c3 nonprofit, you're really official. There's definitely that aspect where any negative feeling towards furry can really harm the goal of what you guys are trying to do. Because when you're with an organization like that, you're not performing for yourselves. You're not performing for the furry fandom. You're performing for the charity or the organization that you have been assigned to help. So yeah, there's definitely a difference there.
It's not just performance. I should put on that. I mean, we're only counting on performance because it is the most vocal thing and the most visual thing that people see. Because it's like you said, we're a visual species. If people see something, that's immediately what they're going to remember. So fursuiters are always what the media brings up. They never even think about the other stuff until you force the issue and you show them and force their hand and say, no, why don't you look at this artwork that we're drawing as well? No, hey, by the way, this book was written by furries. Hey, you know what? Take a look at all these people that do this role play stuff, and this is really cool, and the card games and blah, blah, blah. So that is also, where are they going with that? I don't know. I'm too tired. Anyways.
Okay. Well, the bottom line is when you're going out in public fursuiting, choose people that will represent the fandom well. Everyone knows Uncle Charlie and their group that is liable to do anything and potentially get your group in trouble. Don't go out fursuiting with those people. It could be very bad. I'm sure.
Did you bring me?
Oh, I'm going to bring that up later.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let's go on to the next topic: furry and the media now. Now, as far as media goes, there's no secret that the fandom has gotten kind of a bum rap. And there's two different forms of news sources that we need to discuss. There's reliable, trusted news sources, such as, usually the major networks, ABC, NBC, any local news stations that say come to cover a convention. Those will generally be reliable and positive. There are exceptions to that. But there's also shock value news outlets like MTV, G4, Comedy Central. I'm sure you guys can name some. When those groups approach you to say, oh, we're going to do a story on the furry fandom, and they'll all say the same thing. We know the furry fandom has had a bad reputation, and we're going to change that. They all say that, and you know what?
Every time.
Yep, every time, no exception. And that's just a ploy to get you in there, because once they get you in, they can do whatever they want. They don't have
Freedom of the press
Exactly.
is a dangerous set of words.
Very much so. Okay, so say you are approached by a reporter, a news reporter, and they ask you, what is the furry fandom?
And you will be approached at some point, or
Yes.
you'll know somebody that will. So that's why we're saying this. So that's
Yeah,
why
definitely.
we're bringing this up.
Yeah, maybe not at I wouldn't call this a small con by any means, but a big con like Anthrocon, for example, they're swarming with news people.
I think the term would be larger, where it's physically larger. Where you're more separated, and there's more chance for media to find you.
Yeah, and I think having the convention here as opposed to downtown Seattle. If it was downtown, I think we'd have more
Yep.
media. But anyway, what was my Next point. Okay, the first thing is good reporters have a way of getting you to say what they want. I was a reporter for 5 years. I know a few of the tricks, but I'm going to give an example. What they're looking for is basically, say it's a TV crew. They're looking for what I call a nut quote or a sound bite. You can talk to a reporter for 5 minutes on camera, but when the 6 o'clock news appears, all you're going to see is a 5 to 10 second audio clip of something that they said. It's called a soundbite. A friend of mine actually who lives in this area, Cloudy, he has a horse costume. CBS did a feature at Further Confusion in 2010. And he was stopped by one of the news people in the convention space, and he talked to him for about 3 to 4 minutes about the fandom and how, what it's all about, and said some wonderful things. I've talked to him about this, and unfortunately, the reporter was trying to get him to say something, and towards the end of his speech with him, he said this quote, and this is what appeared on the news out of everything he said, quote, "What secrets do you have that you're not telling people about?" That was the quote that they use on the news. So it goes to say, you have to be very, very careful of what you say. Even you can say the most wonderful things, but if you let that one line slip, because the line that he said it's obviously very open-ended, So there's some techniques you can use to say.
I'm just going to initiate everyone to this. Who actually has spoken to the media about furry before?
Is anyone? No.
Showing of hands?
No.
Okay, so we got one. Okay, what did they ask you?
Actually, I try to stay out of interviews because I'm the spokesperson for your firm, so
Yeah, I
my
recognize.
job is more like selecting people to give interviews, but I talk with the media before they appear. So
You may remember I was on Reuters last year at Eurofurence. I was the Canadian guy in the husky costume. That was me.
Oh, that was you.
That was me, yeah. So I know exactly what you have to deal with over there.
So yeah, it's really important to set the stage in the early phase of the interview and to find out what they're up to.
Yeah.
Not trying to manipulate them, but to figure out what they're after and tell them that straight away you'll be getting this and this and this. You're requesting that. This is going to be a problem because we don't have that.
Right. Yeah.
And this is-
Yeah, flat up denying can work. I've seen that as well. I was going to say, Joe. Yeah, Joe. What was your experience?
I asked him what the questions, about the deal, and I told him, hey, this is mascot, we're here to share ideas, blah, blah, blah. Then he starts going, what's your croissant or something like that? And I said, it sounds like a dessert to me. Does it taste good?
That's a great line.
Then he asked me, no, your favorite animal? Well, cows, chickens, pigs. Well, really? Yeah, they taste good.
That's a great. Humor can go a long way in
He got pissed.
Yeah. Well, that was the guy from the.
Yeah, that was it. Boy,
Oh, boy.
his face was just.
I'll touch on that guy. That was at Vancouver this year. We had one negative report, and that's one that Joe was.
Yeah, I drilled his ass.
Oh yeah. And thank you.
My guts.
And thank you for that, by the way. I don't think he even quoted you really. He just described you. He didn't actually quote you on anything in that article. Yeah.
You know I was crazy because it's crazy. Damn bad.
Yeah.
They took my head off and hey, I got nothing to hide. I'm totally ugly.
Anyways, sorry.
Okay. All right. So a method you can use to say someone is coming in with an agenda. They maybe have heard of the CSI episode, and they're going to try to get you to say something. So say someone asks you a question like, so is this all about sex, or do you guys have sex in fursuit? A great method to use is the dodge and deflect method. Does anyone know what that is? Or okay, basically dodge and deflect.
There's lots of seats in here, guys. If you want to sit down, it's up to you. Okay, sitting here. Okay.
Basically, when someone asks you a leading question like that, you can downplay it or laugh it off, saying, that's we've all heard that one before. And another great way to do it is to kind of play dumb. Just say, someone asks you, what's it like to have sex in a fursuit or something like that. You can look at them with this horrific look like, I don't know anything about that, but if you come back here tomorrow, we'll have a big fursuit parade with over 300 costumes in it. We have award-winning authors here, etc., stuff like that. And usually if you can deflect that train of thought onto something else, that's what they're going to That's what we're going to latch on to.
And deflect, not deny.
Yeah, don't deny.
Big,
That's right.
Big difference.
Mhm.
Do not deny. You'll look at politicians; they do that all the time. People call them liars, but actually, what they are is just very creative at deflecting into other topics. So it's and that's actually a ploy that I've used a couple times with the media because. Well, I'll give some examples later if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
Or no?
Yeah.
I should read your outline, but anyway, we had two for Vancouver this year. Of course, first year convention. Vancouver is a very media friendly city. We lots of movies, lots of film crews. So we were expecting a lot of media coverage. And our policy, because of the way Vancouver is, and very open-minded, not very conservative, very liberal, so we don't really have too much problems with admitting unusual things and having people accept it usually. So we decided, whatever, if media want to come in, let's let them come in. So we advertised in all the community newspapers that we're doing this and so on. So we had 2 film crews show up, actually, 2 news crews. We were not expecting that for a small con. And they did the typical thing of asked me the typical question. Of course, I was the spokesman because I was the co-chairman, whatever. And so I'm sitting there, and I put the public face on. I had my my plaid shirt on because our theme was Canadiana, and I'm looking all lumberjacky and all this kind of thing. And so they're like, "Oh, so what's this about?" "Oh, it's costumers and blah blah this and that and artists and this and that." And then of course the question they always ask is, so a common question is this a sex thing? And I just look at them. And of course, I did exactly like you said. I laughed and deflected. I think the exact line I used was, I laughed and I went, that's a common question only because of the CSI episode. And what I said was, honestly, there is a small percentage of people that do that, but look around you. I mean, that isn't what we're about. If you look around, you'll see a lot of very happy people running around in costume, entertaining each other, doing artwork and stories, and that's what this is about. This is a real wholesome family entertainment. And actually, it sounded a lot better than that on the video, and I was very happy that I was able to come up with that because ultimately it's you don't deny, but you don't admit anything.
It's a
right?
fine line. It's very difficult to say no and not deny something, but also deflect it. So an example of say the sex question comes up, you can be like, if you've ever been in that costume, it gets up to 120 degrees in there. It's not going to be the most, physics. It's like doing it wrapped inside of a couch.
And that's how they explained it to people at work. They'd seen, a couple of people had seen the fursuit photo of my fursuit, and they said, "Well, what's it really like?" I said, "Well, standing still, you're 120 degrees right here."
Yeah.
That's doing nothing. That's just
Exactly.
10 seconds after you put the suit on.
Yeah, I mean, imagine doing strenuous activity in that it just wouldn't work.
I think the best line I always heard was when it's like, well, I don't regularly get into a snowsuit with a motorcycle helmet and ski boots and then go and try and have sex, but I don't know. Maybe you guys do. I don't know. And people understand that reference, so that's why it works. So.
Yep. And along that note, don't say no comment. No comment is the same as basically admits guilt. Admits fault. Let's talk about CSI. Say someone brings up the CSI episode. How would you?
Okay. Well, this was actually done a couple different ways. The CSI episode is a media interpretation of something that they wanted to make into a freak show. So all you tell people is that, well, the media tends to. I always find the best description I give, both to the media and to people, is when people bring that up, I say, well, it's TV. Of course it's going to be sensationally weird. I mean, that was the point.
Yeah.
You can make, going to get coffee from Starbucks be an incredibly sadistic and weird thing if you spin it the right way.
That's right.
So it's like, it doesn't matter what it is. And it's like, if you tell people that, almost everyone goes, oh yeah.
They'll realize
that's true.
Yeah, my explanation is very similar. CSI is a fictional primetime drama. And if you go watch on TV, how much of those types of shows are actually based on reality? Exactly.
How many cops really are the way they are on TV?
CSI isn't even based on reality. Crime scene investigators do not go and investigate a crime. They investigate the scene of the crime.
Yeah,
that's it.
Exactly.
No interviews.
Yeah,
no interviews, exactly.
Yeah,
they're liable to make up any scenario to gain ratings, and that's pretty much what happened.
I was going to say on the CSI episode as well that that was one of the other things that one of the other group of reporters when they came in, they were a little more open about showing the entire event. So we actually gave them more of an insider view. Look on YouTube, by the way, type in Vancouver And you'll see actually a number of these news articles pop up, and the reason they're up there is because we're actually proud of them. They actually were really a decent representation, with one exception of the way they described this. They said they call themselves furries or plushies.
That's unfortunate.
We didn't tell them that. They came up with that themselves.
That's happened at Anthrocon as well. They've called plushies before.
But anyway, they dwelled on this, and I overheard from someone else. They said they overheard the reporter, who was a really nice lady, saying that she was going to bring up the CSI episode. And the minute I heard this, I was doing other con stuff because, co-chairman, you're doing a lot of stuff. And I'm like, oh boy, okay. So I run over there, and I had a pretty good dialogue with her. So I said, hey, I heard you're going to bring up the CSI episode. Can I ask what your context is that you're going to introduce it with? And she laughed at me. She goes, well, we know it's ridiculous, and this is the spin I wanted to put on it. I wanted to say, and this is exactly how it was in the article. She says, I want to get a group of people in costume to be behind me, and I'm going to say, well, basically furries are a happy, friendly, fun group of people until you mention a certain CSI episode, and then have them all go get angry, is what she said. And I'm like, I looked at her and I said, if you do that, I will love you forever. And I think that was the line I actually used. And she laughed, and if you watch the article, they do almost exactly that. Although it became actually, Kheetah, you were in that.
Yeah.
Kheetah was actually on camera with that one, so that was it was great. So anyway, that was the CSI as far as I'm concerned. So.
And let's talk about local media too. I know you guys got this at Vancouver. You had a local station, right? Well, when you think about it, when local media covers a convention, it's almost always going to be positive. And the reason why is economics. Anthrocon, for example, pulls in $4.4 million in tourism and money to the city of Pittsburgh every year. And pretty much it comes down to, you don't want to piss off an organization that has that much financial impact on your city. Because if something bad comes out in the news, that's going to obviously impact the people that go to the convention and the people that support it. And that's not good. There's an example, I'll say it real quick. Uncle Kage he arranges the news media at Anthrocon every year, and they had a nice setup where there was fursuiters in the back, and it was all prearranged, and we were doing the shoot. And all of a sudden, this husky comes up from behind and starts dry humping one of the fursuiters on camera. Obviously, he was not very happy about this, so he snuck behind and tossed him out. He was deathfully frightened that this would appear on the news. And this organization had been covering the convention for many years, and they already had a good rapport. And everyone was watching the news as it came on. And they panned across the fursuiters, and right before the husky did his thing, they panned to a B-roll of the dealer's room and kept the thing going. And they cut back to the fursuiters just enough in time to see the husky going flying off to the side. So, yeah. So that right there is the importance of maintaining a good relationship with your host city. And because it can really make a difference as far as
typical husky for you, ain't it?
Yeah. Well, we won't go there.
Oh boy,
we won't go there.
Oh, Joe, we'll have words.
Yeah.
Actually, on that subject, I was going to bring up an interesting point on that. Actually, we've found, at least I've found, that there's a very distinct difference, and I think you'll agree with this, distinct difference, as you touched on this, between the news media and the entertainment media.
Right.
I don't think there's such a thing as the entertainment media that are looking for a good story. They don't want you to look as a positive in any way, generally. Now, there are exceptions to that. Like, I think that Fanboy Confessionals episode, if you've seen that, was pretty well done. I think that was pretty evenly done. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's pretty good. It's a show that essentially focuses on fandoms. So they went into the furry fandom. They went to, I think it was it Fernal Equinox? Or
one of those, yeah.
Something over in eastern Canada.
It was in London.
And, what's that?
It was in London.
London, Ontario. Yeah. In Canada, anyway. So they went to this con, and it was very even, which is great, but that's rare. Most of the other guys are looking to make people go, look at that, and they're going to find you. They're going to find a way to do that. So if it's the news media, I've always found, you know what, go ahead, talk to them, see what you can do. If someone says, yeah, I'm from MTV and blah, 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 it's like, yeah, no thanks.
Yeah,
that's what I would
just stay away, yeah.
Excuse me.
Okay, well, I'm going to share a couple of actual real-life newspaper examples in the past. Now, I was a... I was a reporter for the Redmond Reporter, which is a city, a home of Microsoft. It's about 20 minutes north of here. But I normally did sports for their newspaper, but sometimes I had to step in and do business stories as well. Well, it just so happened that I knew of a fursuit builder that lived in Redmond, and I brought this to my editor, and I was like, you know what, this guy has this company. He builds, mascot characters and repairs them, and I think it'd be a great story. And sure enough, on the cover of our newspaper, we had Dino, is one of his characters in a hammock, and it opens.
That's Tabase's.
Tabase, yeah, Tabase, and he.
He's staffed here, by the way.
Yeah, he is working con ops. Anyway, and I did a business story about says Anthropause brings furry characters to life, and these community newspapers are a great way to get some exposure. If you know anyone that lives, just about every community has one of these. It's the weekly rag, as people say. But if someone has a fursuit making business in the community, it's great exposure for them. And yeah, you guys want to see this? There, let me explain. Let me read a paragraph here from. This is how I love being able to control what people read about the furry fandom. That was big for me. So this is how I explained it in the article. I introduce him and a little bit about his history, and I'm explaining his company name called Anthropause. The unique company name comes from the word anthropomorphics, which relates to bringing human characteristics to something that is non-human, like an animal. Cartoon characters like Bugs Bunny or Mickey Mouse are an example, and many fans of anthropomorphics, also known as furries, create their own characters and have them commissioned into a full costume called a fursuit that resembles sports mascots with a personal touch. So that's you guys want to take a look at this?
Yeah, there's also the other side of that where the media, again, focusing on what you were saying, or I don't want to lead. Do you want to lead into this?
Oh, is this what you're leading into?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Here's another example. This appeared in the Seattle Times, which is our big daily metro newspaper here in Seattle. Basically, the Seattle Center, which is the home of the Space Needle and all that, they were celebrating their 50th anniversary, I believe, because it's 1962 was the World's Fair, and that's when the Space Needle was introduced. And so there's all sorts of activities going on downtown. So we had a local meet.
Just chairs, guys, if you want.
Okay. Yeah. But we had some fursuiters that decided to show up, kind of like guerrilla fursuiting, which was another topic we can get into. But going downtown and having fun and interacting with people. And there was also there was an autism walk going on at the same time in the Seattle Center. So a lot of the fursuiters went and interacted with the children there and the families, and it was just great coverage. And there was photographers and reporters from the Times out. Well, unfortunately, there were some fursuiters that don't have as much respect as they should for the public and maintaining a furry image. So,
of all the positive things that could have been printed from this, kids smiling, people having a great time, people coming out of this is like, wow, look at this really great thing, and look at these things that guys are doing volunteering. This is what was printed.
This is what was printed in the newspaper. It was just 4 fursuiters just sitting there, and one of them with his head off, ruining the magic, so to speak. And this was actually only about 20 or 30 feet from the actual dance stage that had live music playing, so people could see this. And it's just very unfortunate. So you have to always be cognizant when you're out in public of, first of all, if there's any news crews or anyone that can potentially do something, because I'm sure they knew this photo was being taken, but it's just they didn't care.
Say as you will about, and this sort of touches on the reason people get into fursuit and stuff like this. Now, obviously, we're focusing on fursuits because, once again, very visual. This is what people see. Mm-hmm. So if you are a fursuiter, everyone will have a different reason for being in suit. People will do it sometimes because they love to perform. They love to entertain people. That's myself. I know that's the same as Kijani. We like to go out there and make people smile. That's our entire motivation. Some people like to wear it like they wear a nice set of clothes. Like, look at this awesome costume I'm wearing. Hey, hey guys, you want to go get some beers later? This type of thing, which is fine. That's just another way of doing it. But then there's other guys who just, those types of people I find tend to be more liberal about how they treat the costume. They figure, it's no big deal if I, walk up to this kid and pull my head off and go, ah! And, well, that might be entertaining the first time you do it and absolutely completely creep out that kid, and he'll
traumatize him for life.
I don't personally think that's a very good way of representing the group of people that you are representing by putting on that costume. And I think a lot of people forget that just because you don't feel like you want to represent people, that you actually are. You already are. Just by being out there, you're already representing all of us. So be aware of what you're doing. I was so angry about this. I tweeted about this because I know the guy who's sitting there with his head off, and most of the people here probably do if you're local. He's famous for this. He's done this many times before, and it pisses me off. It does. I won't lie. And the guy's a great guy. He's very giving and everything else, but my God, have some. Anyway, very frustrating. Very frustrating that such a positive event could be represented in this way, at least in my eyes.
Yeah, and it shows you that the media will go for something that they'll deem shocking. You know, this is a pretty innocent piece. You know, nothing really bad showing, but it could have been so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else on that? Furry in the media,
In that part of it?
or anything?
Furry in the media. Well, it's interesting too. Different areas will have different perspectives on this, and a lot of people have told me that we're on the West Coast. It is generally very liberal here, so as a result, you tend to have. And when I mean liberal, I mean people are open-minded to new ideas. We're very fortunate in that regard. So one of the reasons this discussion will slightly have a different skew to it compared to one you might get in Anthrocon, for example, or some of the southern states like Furry Fiesta, places like that, because they have a different impact on the media because the public has a different opinion of how they actually are. I know Germany, for example, is a very different way on how they handle media. Room 366 is a great example of that. They just don't, if I may say, don't really care as much as the people around here seem to. In that regard, like the media is just that thing that's cool, that you can go ahead and talk about us if you like, whereas we're like, oh, what are they going to say? We're very nervous. And that's been my perspective when I talked with Night Fox and a number of other people, Kheetah and so on. Which is, and maybe you can speak to that. I don't want to put words in your mouth, so.
To my experience here, it is, well, they do not concentrate that much on the sexual aspect.
Right.
Surprisingly, we had a report made by the late night evening news of the most important public broadcaster in Germany, EDF. And they were the first one to bring up the sexual thing. Like, well, if in a way they said something along the lines of, well, you might get the impression that this is a large swinger club, but it was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That's one of the most reputable broadcaster in Germany.
Yeah.
What the hell? And on the other hand, all the tabloid formats we had were much easier to handle, but they were generally positive and well, half a sentence about sexual aspects, but that just showed it away like this. So.
Yeah.
So
No.
we were mainly something, but in general, we're mainly something that's curious but harmless.
Yeah, so it's okay. So that sort of does speak to what I was thinking. So all I was trying to get at with that is that just be aware that your area might have a different focus on how to present the group. And if you're not comfortable speaking to the media, nobody's making you. I mean, there's absolutely nobody making you. In fact, the best thing you can do if you're not comfortable is know who they should go to speak to. Because the way that works is if they're looking for someone to speak to, and you say no, I'd rather not say anything, they'll just go to the next person or look for the weirdest looking person and try to get them on camera. So if the media comes up to you and you actually think that, I don't really feel comfortable talking to you, it's like, did you have a question? Sorry?
Oh, I was just going to think to myself that, so it's the Occupy movement.
The what?
It's the Occupy movement. The press will find the weirdest person there.
Yeah, absolutely. They'll always look for the freak because honestly, that's the best news, right? I mean, if you're looking around in a group of normal-looking people and there's a guy with a giant mohawk sitting there, you're probably going to go talk to the guy with the mohawk because it's like, well, he seems interesting. Let's see what he says, right? So it's the same situation here. So if the media does approach you and they say, hey, what's this convention all about? And you say, well, I'll tell you what. I actually know the best person you should speak to. Here, follow me. And then you bring them to con ops. Okay, or you bring them to the first person with a staff shirt you see, or you bring them to someone else like that. Because ultimately, if you're at a convention anyway, in that situation, you bring them to whoever you feel would give the best representation of the fandom. Because remember, whoever says what they're going to say is going to be how we're all portrayed. So that's the best thing you can do. A lot of people, that's the question I get the most, is like, well, what should I say to them if I don't really know what to say? It's like, if you don't know what to say, there's nothing wrong with that. Just bring them to someone who does know what to say. And if you think you are ready to say something, maybe ask your friends if it's the right thing to say. because some people think, oh, I know how to describe this. I'll just describe it as this thing. I have a teddy bear and I love it, and that's why I'm furry. And it's like, might not be the best description.
I'm going to save the fandom by dispelling all the myths. Yeah,
if you feel, sometimes the people who are the most, like, I know exactly how I'm going to describe this will be the people that will ruin it for you. And I have an example of that from Vancouver. There's someone locally who I want to punch in the face who... We had these guys sequestered into a little area, and they came at 9 p.m. on a Saturday when we were running our adult panels. That's when they arrived. They intentionally arrived then, and I knew it. But our chairman had said, "Nope, we're going to let them in. I've already talked to them. Everything's fine." I'm like, "Okay." So I lead them around. I tell them flat up, off the record, that just so you guys know, we've been burned by the media a lot lately. You're probably going to want to be a little more careful about with your wording on how you ask questions, because these people will, if they sense that you're looking for a bad story, they're going to shut down on you. They quoted me on that in the article, and then said that I was what was the description?
I can't remember.
I was a obviously not today, but a clean-shaven, perfectly groomed person that looked like, a very authoritative, and I was going to show them only the good side of the fandom, and that I was hiding all the truth of the fandom from them. So they found the one person that would, of course, tell them the truth of the fandom, who, again, I want to punch in the face, who said basically that I had been lying to them the whole time, and that anyone who says that this is not a sexual exploration fandom is lying to you, and that's really what this is all about. That's what they printed. That was, in fact, the entire basis of their article.
Yeah.
They will find the freaks, everybody. So that was my own fault, because, frankly, I didn't put them in the right place. I let them go to the adult panel. I sat there behind and watched. The only time his pen was moving was when something sexual was being described. Everything else about how, well, that isn't what we're about. We're actually about this and this and that. It was a great panel. And then someone said, well, I do some occasional things like this and that and whatever. But, really, it's not that. So that this and that whatever, I guarantee you was on his paper. So anyway.
And if you're in a suit, you could just mime, oh, I don't talk, If you're in a suit, and the media comes up to you, you can just totally deflect to that.
Yeah.
And then I point to one of the con staff people, go here.
Yeah, act all cute, and then if they say, hey, can we interview you?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Grab them by the shoulders and push them over there.
Exactly.
Anyways.
Do you have a question?
So is this a result of us being too open about our whole community? So if you would put more group pressure inside, that those people would feel singled out, would that work? Should we more promote a group feeling where we more or less point to things which are not good, which we don't want to have in society? You see, this room is rather small, and I assume everyone going to this room has a feeling, that is what we shouldn't do, but that's not the persons running around. So we will always have some freaks not playing by the rules or intentionally destroying the rules. But I could imagine there are quite a lot of people who need a bit more guidance, or need a bit more the feeling they belong here, and for this belonging they need to stick a little bit to the, I'm not sure if group rules is a correct word, but the group idea. And I'm not sure how we can perhaps bring this a little bit out of this room to more of those people.
Yeah. I think, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, that's a tough one, because, furry fandom means a different thing to every single person in the fandom, and it's really hard to have that definition of, what we are. And I agree with your point. The people that really need to be hearing this discussion are not in this room right now. They're elsewhere, so.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Yeah, the guys that are sitting here, you already care about this. You obviously already care about the fact that this fandom is being represented badly by a very small group of individuals. This has to be your homework. This has to be what all of you will take to all your friends and say, hey guys, this is what I learned at the con. You guys should really think about this. And I think the number one thing in that regard that I've always found works well is to have a very clear definition of what furry is for you. And I brought this up in my last panel. A lot of people, if someone asks you a question, like let's say a coworker comes to you and say, hey, I heard you do this animal thing. What are you into? What's this thing? And you have trouble describing it to them, that means you don't actually understand it yourself. Because ultimately, whatever you do in the fandom might be entirely different than what the actual definition is based on the book definition of what furry is. because there really is no book definition of what furry is. It's a million things. It's whatever you want it to be. And I find a lot of people like to have a list. They'll have a piece of paper. You'll take your pen. You'll say, what furry is to me? And you just do point form. I like cartoons. And then you maybe go and branch into that. I like Bugs Bunny. I like making my own cartoon characters. Then it's like, I like artwork. I really like costuming. Specifically, I like entertaining people. So if you define it in that way and actually do point form, you can find ways to make the most elaborate description of something into something very simple. Because if you take those words and then say, well, actually, that's really close to, I like Saturday morning cartoons and I just never grew out of it. You know what? There's people that'll understand that. And that is a great way of describing it to the media, because remember, the media is representing to the public. And what does the public understand? The public understands things that they are familiar with. So taking and understanding your idea of what furry is will help you to describe it to other people in a way that doesn't look creepy and weird. Because if they understand it and they say, oh, I know what a mascot is. I know Bugs Bunny. Hey, I loved the Roadrunner cartoons. That was awesome. Oh, Robin Hood. Yeah, that was my favorite movie as a kid. Yeah, you like that too? That's awesome. That's how I always felt it worked really well.
Yeah, we got to be able to connect with them. Yes?
Question for you. I know that a lot of cons will control the media and who gets in, who doesn't. But as I've heard Kagi say in some of his interviews on YouTube, that there will always be the media outlet that shows up that stays outside the con, off con property.
Yeah.
What if you're approached by one of these people and they're very insistent on getting you to talk? How can you get away from them without it appearing that you're trying to hide something? A graceful exit that says, I really don't want to talk to you. Please leave me alone.
Truthfully, the best thing is, as I said, deflection. It's deflection in the best way of, you know what, I'm really bad at describing things like this. I'll tell you who I can tell you. I can show you who will, though. They'll have a really good idea of this. But in the absolute worst case, in my opinion, if they just push you aside and you don't think there's any good way to walk away from it, first of all, they won't air you if it seems bad, because it's just if you just basically turn away and say, yes, I'm not interested. And you just walk away, they're not gonna air that. They're not. I mean, they might make a comment about it. That'd be the worst thing. But if you really feel like you can't do anything else, at the very least, always start with, well, to me, this is, that line. To me, this is, okay? Not, this is this, because you are now representing everyone. But if you say, well, I enjoy it because of blah. I do. This is my opinion. But if you start as a sentence, remember, they can't fragment it. They can't cut it, or not easily anyway. If you make it a single sentence, they can't cut it up. They can't make it look bad. So you just say, well, to me, this is just an exploration of cartoon animals and stuff. I never grew out of cartoons. The worst out of that is they could kick, I never grew out of cartoons, and make that a section. But it's okay, that's not so bad. So anyway. That's, if you just go over it in your head, and don't get nervous, that's the other thing, because it's a lot of people get really nervous on camera. Yeah. They're judging me.
Don't look unsure, don't look down, maintain eye contact. The worst thing you can do is just, give off this feeling that you're unsure of yourself.
And again, deflection is the best thing you can do. If you're not capable of deflection, and then just say, sorry, I'm not comfortable on camera, guys, and just walk away. That they get that every day. They get that from people asking, if they like the weather today. Anyway, getting low on time. That's what I was trying to
Yeah, I was just going to talk about.
Please do.
Yeah. Okay. This is one last topic before we finish up. How many of you have had trouble presenting furry to your family or your friends or your coworkers? Don't know what to say. Yeah, a lot of people. I'm imagining. Well. It's all about the presentation, in my opinion. Say you were talking to your friends about going to Rainforest, for example, and they were asking, oh, Rainforest, well, what is that? What kind of a convention is that? There's two ways you can go about that. You can look really unsure and kind of embarrassed about it and say, oh, I'm just going to hang out with a bunch of my friends, and we'll be wearing some animal costumes and having fun, and they'll be like, oh, that sounds kind of strange. Well, there's you can, on the flip side of that, you can say something like this. You can be like, oh, well, I'm going to go to a convention that will feature some of the best cartoon and comic book artists from all over the United States. There's going to be a parade on Saturday with over 300 costumes in it, many of which were made by hand and cost thousands of dollars. There's going to be professional mascot performers and puppeteers and costume builders, and they'll all be teaching classes and workshops for us to learn at the convention. And you know what? There's even an award-winning science fiction author, Elizabeth Ann Scarborough. She's going to be the guest of honor at our convention. When you present it that way, you know, how do you think they're going to feel? They're going to be like, "That's really freaking cool. I want to go." That's your goal when you do that. You know, it's all about the presentation. Always focus on the. Nothing that I said was not true. It was all. I mean, I'm sorry. And everything that I said was true. It wasn't made up about Rain First.
It's a true representation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And another thing you can do is show positive videos of fursuiters doing great things in the community. Now, being fursuiter, I know you have some footage of that, but there's a lot of it on YouTube. I'm sure you just do a quick search.
Or the dance videos.
Or dance
so
videos. Yeah.
Everybody gets into dance videos.
Yeah.
That's one of the best things I've found to introduce people. They're like, "Well, what do you really do?" And then you pull up some dance video of like 4 going freaking crazy in his costume, and you're like. They're like, "Wow, he did that in costume? Holy crap, that's awesome!" And then so it doesn't matter who it is, like suddenly they're interested, and it's like, "Wow, that's really neat. Can you do that?" "Well, no, but I'm trying." It's like so.
Just show what we're all about. We're all about having fun. Dance videos, general convention videos are great, or people going out, fursuiters going out in public and doing charity events, community events, making people smile, enjoy their day a little bit more. And basically, one more thing. You will sometimes get a comparison between the furry fandom and like the anime fandom or cosplay or sci-fi fandom.
Lots of that.
And the best thing to say to that when say, "Oh, you guys are like the anime people." Well, no, that's not the case. Furry fans are truly fans of each other. We're unique because the costumes that you see here around the convention space are not licensed characters. They do not already exist in popular culture like sci-fi, like anime conventions. We all created our own characters, well, most of us anyway. And it's just the creativity of that brings it to a whole new level. And I think that's something that's really unique, though.
Brings a lot of respect.
Yeah, it does.
A lot of people don't. People are used to the fandoms where it's like, well, I'm going to be Uhura from Star Trek, or I'm going to, be a Ranamon, or I'm going to be whatever. And there's Ranamons in the fandom, so no disrespect, but there is something to be said. The fact that almost everyone here has entirely their own creation. So we're not sitting there trying to better each other by being the better, the better whatever, the better Dragon Ball Z character, whatever. We have our own characters, and who we are is represented by what we do. Whereas you'll get 5 or 6 of the same character, and they're all looking at each other with their noses up, like, "Well, mine's better because of this," and it becomes this competition thing. And it's like we don't have that competition. We are open to each other, and we enjoy this for our own reasons. And I love this fandom for that. I love it, and that's easy to explain to people when you say that. It's like, no, we don't. These guys worship other people's characters. We have our own. So,
They're imitators.
we don't need those other guys.
They're original. They're imitators.
Exactly, right.
Exactly.
All right, does anyone have any questions or comments or anything?
Comments, stories?
Last, yeah.
Nothing. Jeez, I guess we're pretty good.
I guess that's it. All right, thanks a lot for coming, guys. Appreciate it.